Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most pressing economic issues facing America, inflation. Senator John Kennedy has a clear stance. We have to grow our way out of it. But is that even possible? What's the real solution to rising prices, high taxes, and economic uncertainty? Stick around because we're breaking it all down right now. And before we get started, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss an update on the biggest issues affecting your wallet.
Joining us now to discuss is Senator John Kennedy, Republican from Louisiana. Welcome back, Senator. Good to have you with us.
Thank you, Tom.
Let's clear the table on the question of a government shutdown. That's what's keeping you all here, and those who are running for re-election, you're not, away from the campaign trail. How do we get to an agreement, not only in the House, but in the Senate, on a government shutdown?
Well, we'll reach agreement. The pressure of time will help. I don't know anybody who's for shutting government down. If you're for shutting government down, you tested positive for stupid. It's politically dumb, and it's wrong. And it scares people half to death, particularly the elderly. There's a disagreement over what kind of CR, continuing resolution, we choose, short-term, long-term. We'll get it worked out.
The sticking point, or a sticking point, as I understand it, is that in the current bill, there is a link in the legislation requiring proof of citizenship to register to vote.
Right.
Is that truly the sticking point? Will that persist and be in the final version of this bill?
Well, Senator Schumer, who has, of course, the Democrats have control of the Senate, says it will not be in the final bill. I haven't talked to Chuck about it. Is he bluffing? I don't know. That's got to pass the House first. And Speaker Johnson, I support Speaker Johnson's Plan A, but they're going to vote, I think, today. I don't know if Plan A is going to pass, and I haven't seen his Plan B.
So on the issue of how the government should be funded, with the way that the debt levels are rising, and you know the numbers better than anyone, what's your philosophy about this issue? Is it better, as you said, if shutting it down is stupid, is it better to keep it open no matter what the extension is, 30 days, 60 days, 6 months in this case, or does there need to be a clearer plan for kind of more permanent funding that is married with some action on the deficit and debt situation?
Well, short term, we know if we shut government down, we're not going to leave it shut down. And it just scares people unnecessarily, particularly the elderly. Longer term, here's what we'll be grappling with in the next Congress. And I'm going to speak from the Republican side. We want to extend the tax cuts. How do we extend the tax cut? And I'm not saying I'm for all of this, but the issue is, how does one extend the tax cuts, cut taxes on wages, cut taxes on overtime, stop deficit spending, reduce the debt, and spend 5% of our income on the military? Now that's the bottom line.
That's why the deficit is as big as it is. That's why the debt is as large as it is.
And it's the old guns versus butter. And I know it tastes like fishbowl water when I tell my constituents we can't do all of those things. The math just doesn't work. Something's going to have to give. And that's longer term what the fight's going to be over.
Right now, Washington is in chaos over a possible government shutdown. But let's be real, nobody actually wants that. As Senator Kennedy put it, shutting down the government is just plain stupid. It scares the American people, disrupts essential services, and doesn't solve anything. The real issue? Lawmakers can't agree on how to fund the government and whether voter ID laws should be included in the bill. And that's just the beginning of the fight.
Do you think that apart from renewing some of the tax cuts that were in the 2017 legislation, freeing tips from taxation, freeing overtime from taxation, freeing Social Security benefits from taxation, is that plausible?
Here's what I think. I think the biggest economic problem facing the American people is inflation. It's gutting the middle class and lower income people like a fish. We're not going to be able to reduce prices. I know we've reduced inflation, but we're not going to be able to reduce the actual prices without doing one or two things: going into a recession, which nobody wants, or number two, growing our way out of it. We've got to do something to stimulate this economy. It's very, very weak. And about 5,000 years of history demonstrates to us that if you want to increase income If you want to increase wealth, you've got to increase output. You're not going to increase output by raising taxes. If you tax something, you get less of it.
The issue.
Kennedy believes we need to grow our way out of inflation, not tax our way out of it. Remember the 2017 tax cuts? According to him, they worked. They raised wages, boosted business investment, and helped bring money back to America. But opponents argue that they also increased the deficit. So, what's the truth? Should we extend those tax cuts? Should we revise them? Let me know what you think in the comments.
Just being, of course, as people would say, that output has remained fairly consistent throughout all various levels and degrees of tax cutting cycles. And the issue is that Trump's policies in part helped to grow the debt pile we're now servicing. And the deficit is so wide at 7% of GDP right now, there's going to be pressure to close it. So I don't know, even if you wanted to incentivize a faster growing economy, what other options do you have?
I just don't agree with you. I respect your opinion, but I don't agree with you. When we cut those taxes in 2017, if you look at the numbers in 2019, it clearly stimulated the economy. Wages went up, especially at the lower end of the wage scale. Companies repatriated trillions of dollars from overseas.
They did, but the Fed still cut rates in 2019.
But then we had a pandemic.
Yeah.
And all bets were off in terms of judging. What I would like to see us do on the tax cuts is go through every single one and say which one of the tax cuts worked, which ones didn't work, and let's do the ones that worked and throw out the ones that didn't work. Now,
that sounds entirely too reasonable.
Well, that may be the problem. I mean,
I don't know if it's a path towards winning in November either. You're talking about SALT. All of these constituencies are so valuable in a very tight election.
Well, we know this. Nobody wants a recession. If I don't know if I can say this, if we have a recession, Google will have to lay off 25 members of Congress, and that will be terrible, okay?
The Fed and interest rates. Now let's talk about the Federal Reserve. Should they cut interest rates to stimulate the economy? Kennedy says yes, by at least 25 basis points. But former President Trump and others warn that cutting rates could reignite inflation. So, what's the bigger risk? Inflation staying high or the economy slowing down too much? This is a debate with no easy answers, but one thing is certain. The decisions made now will impact every American household.
We need to find, to my way of thinking, the way you attack inflation, because as you said, the rate of price growth has declined, but prices are still higher than they were. Yeah. The way you have to fight it is by putting more dollars in people's pockets one way or another.
No question.
Let's turn to that issue of economic stimulus. You favor a rate cut today.
Yes.
The leader of your party, President Trump, former President Trump, has said warned that rate cuts are, quote, something that they know, the Fed, they shouldn't be doing. Mm-hmm. So that's a difference between you and him.
Yes. Well, obviously, this is America. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. Mm-hmm. I think we should.
But what would you say to him then? Let me put it that way.
I would say to the president, with respect, I disagree. I think we need to do a 25 basis point rate cut, quarter of a point. What's the biggest danger right now? Inflation being reignited or recession? Now, if you think it's recession, you're going to argue for 50 basis points. I think it's inflation. I'm pretty risk averse. I think Jay Powell is risk averse.
I think your constituents are also especially hit by some of the flood policies and different things where we've seen some of the highest inflation. I wonder if that makes it, for you, a little bit different story.
And here's what's troubling the American people. They maybe can't tell you the difference between disinflation and deflation. But yes, inflation is down. That just means prices are going up less quickly. But prices aren't falling. And if we tell the American people the truth, it's going to be hard to get those high prices down. We can get them down. You do what China's doing, go into a recession.
No,
and prices will fall, but that's too big of a price to pay.
You want their wages to go up.
So we have got to grow our way out of it. And this current economy under President Biden and, frankly, Vice President Harris's tax plan, they want to raise taxes. They don't want to cut them. And I do not think that it will grow the economy, and that's only what we're going to get out of these, get away from these high prices.
The reality of inflation. Here's the deal. Yes, inflation has slowed, but prices are still sky high. Just because the rate of increase has gone down doesn't mean things are getting cheaper.
The economy has been growing above trend over the past couple of years.
Oh, I don't agree with that. I just don't.
Well, the numbers say it is.
We have 2% growth now, and we want to have a toga party. That's embarrassing. We ought to be growing this economy at 3% a year.
Pretty close right
Before
now.
the Great Recession, 3% a year was considered normal.
Yeah.
So I'm not prepared to concede that we can get to 2%. Bull.
We're at
We need to
2.8
shoot
this
for
quarter,
3.
though. We're in that neighborhood.
Yeah, but that's not annualized.
Yeah.
That's not annualized.
Yeah.
And we need to get back to 3%. And it's the only thing that's going to help people stop having to sell blood plasma to go to the grocery store. That's what's upsetting America today. It's the high prices. Everything else is just cottage cheese. I'm not saying it's not important. A lot of people like cottage cheese.
Yeah.
Border's important, crime, national defense. But the single biggest thing that moms and dads are worried about at night when they lie down to sleep and can't, it's the cost of living.
And that is the case for 25.
That's it.
Senator Kennedy, thank you.
Good to have you back.
Guys. Good to see
Appreciate
you.
it.
Kennedy believes the only real way to lower prices is by growing the economy. More production, more jobs, more money in people's pockets. But can we achieve 3% growth like we used to? Or are we stuck at 2% and calling it a win? The reality is, Americans are struggling and we need real solutions. Conclusion and call to action. So, what do you think? Can we really grow our way out of inflation, or is there another solution? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you found this breakdown helpful, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update on the biggest economic issues facing America today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.